So essential ingredient number 2 is a restoration of healthy body weight. And it's so interesting if you look at the research here, sufficient weight loss often reverses diabetes no matter how it's achieved. The more weight is lost, the greater the remission rate. And this is the direct trial. People that lost up to 11 pounds had a remission rate of 7%. 11 to 22 pounds, 34% remission. 22 to 33 pounds, 57% remission. Over 33 pounds, 86% went into remission. This is really amazing. And even moderate weight loss improves insulin sensitivity. So a weight loss of even just 5 to 10% of initial body weight can dramatically improve insulin sensitivity. And so how do we achieve this? Well, now we're thinking a lot about these new approaches that involve some degree of fasting or modified fasting. So time-restricted feeding might be not eating for 12 hours a day. So after dinner, you stop eating. So say it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, you go 12 hours and you don't eat before 7 o'clock the next morning. So you're not doing that nighttime eating. You may do a 14-hour or a 16-hour. Or you might do intermittent fasting where you're fasting, we call it 6 to 1 or 5 to 2. So you might fast 1 day a week on the 6 to 1, 6 days of eating, 1 day of fasting, or 5 to 2, 5 days of eating, 2 days of fasting. And then there's periodic fasts, or like these fasting mimicking diets where you're doing a fast or a modified fast for maybe 3 to 5 days once every 3 months. So there are lots of ways of doing this. And then, of course, the other way is continuous energy restriction, which is pretty easy to do on a whole food plant-based diet. The practical pointers here, we need to achieve negative energy balance. So fewer calories in, more calories out. We need to exercise more and eat fewer calories. It doesn't mean we need to eat a smaller volume of food. If we eat the right foods, we can still eat a large volume and have fewer calories. And that's one of the beauties of plant-based diets, because if you look at the sort of calories per gram in foods, there's 8.8 calories per gram of oil, 4 in cheddar cheese, 4 in donuts, 3.1 in Spam or fried chicken, 3. Compare that to, beans and barley, just over the 1, bananas, not quite 1, and other, non-starchy vegetables are so low that it allows you to eat quite a volume of food. One of the key things, I think, for people with diabetes is to drink water, not sugar, and not artificially sweetened beverages either, which I'll mention a little bit more about later, but people need to be drinking water. They need to practice portion control. We learned this in the Marshall Islands. We started out giving them unlimited, just letting them fill their plates. We would put the brown rice or the barley out and let them fill their plates, and we didn't get the results we were looking for in terms of their evening blood sugars. And so we had to start portioning it out, and it just made all the difference in the world. So for some of these more concentrated carbohydrate foods, especially when you have insulin resistance, it helps to control portions of the really high starchy grains and vegetables, and of the concentrated fat sources like nuts and seeds and avocados and olives and coconut and so forth. I would suggest not snacking at all, at least 4 to 6 hours between meals, and drinking water or herbal tea between the meals. And if snacks are absolutely, you just have to have a snack, stick to raw vegetables or fresh fruit rather than anything else. And one of the things that we used to think as dietitians is people shouldn't be weighing themselves too often because it can be discouraging and all of these reasons. But we've learned in the last 10 years that this is a mistake. People who weigh themselves at the same time every day, say in the morning, just after you wake up, it actually leads to improved long-term weight maintenance. And so I think I have 2 friends that I know that have been weighing themselves every day for probably 50 years. And both of them are still at the same weight they were in high school. And I'm not kidding you. One of them is my mother, who's 82 years old, And she was 126 pounds when she got married. She's 5'6". And she still varies between 125 and 130 pounds. It's just, she's done that all her life. And if she gains a few pounds, she doesn't eat desserts. She just cuts back her portions. She's just always done that. And so for a lot of people, it's a really good idea to be weighing on a daily basis. And then, of course, increasing physical activity, at least 150 minutes of structured exercise per week, including aerobic and resistant exercise. Essential ingredient number 3 is whole food carbohydrates. You know, when you look at how much carbohydrates people eat in diabetes risk, the percent of calories from carbohydrates has little influence on diabetes risk. The lowest rates of diabetes in the world are found in populations eating the highest carbohydrate diets. It's the quality of the carbohydrates that determines health outcomes. Carbohydrates from whole foods are consistently protective against diabetes. Carbohydrates from refined foods are consistently risky. And not just diabetes, for every disease you can think of. Refined carbohydrates are associated with overeating and obesity, insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, inflammation, and high triglycerides. Not good. So what are refined carbohydrates? Well, they're just high carbohydrate foods that have been stripped of almost everything of value to human health before we eat them. You know, so there are simple refined carbohydrates like sugars and sweet beverages, and there are complex refined carbohydrates like starches, like white flour and white rice. So when we refine a grain, we remove, so say we go from wheat to white flour, we remove the bran and the germ. Well, the bran is the outer husk of the kernel where a lot of the fiber and minerals are stored. The germ is the most nutrient-dense part of the grain. It's where the vitamin E is. It's where the protein is. It's where a lot of the vitamins, like the B vitamins, all of these things, the phytochemicals are really concentrated there. And when we make white flour, we remove the bran and the germ. And all we're left with is something called endosperm, which is pretty much pure starch. A little bit of protein, a little bit of vitamins and minerals. But typically, we lose 80 to 90% of the fiber, 70 to 80% of the vitamins and minerals, and 95% of the protective phytochemicals. And then, of course, nobody eats a bowl of white flour. Right? Before you eat the flour, you add fat and sugar and salt and additives, and then you eat the white flour. And therein lies the problem. Not only have we removed what is of value to human health, we've added a bunch of things we know are pathogenic that contribute to disease risk, and our body has to deal with this stuff. It's impossible to ever achieve optimal health on a diet of refined carbohydrates. Replacing meat and potatoes with bagels and all of these refined carbohydrate foods will not improve your health outcomes. We know that. So what is a safe level of added sugars? Well, the World Health Organization suggests not more than 10% of calories or 12 teaspoons of sugar in a day. You might say, who eats 12 teaspoons of sugar in a day? Yuck, that'd be disgusting. But you'll see, a lot of people. They also add that for greater health benefits, people would be better off keeping it under 5% or under 6 teaspoons of sugar per day. Well, the average intake in the United States is 17 teaspoons a day for adults, and for teens, it's 28 teaspoons a day because of the sodas and sweet drinks they consume. So how much is in food? Well, that 12 teaspoon upper limit, at the very upper limit, you get in a 12-ounce soda, or a large flavored coffee can provide as many as 18 teaspoons of sugar. One of the things I do in the Marshall Islands is I take a 20-ounce bottle of orange soda, and I take a narrow glass, and I measure out the 20-plus teaspoons of sugar into the glass, and I say to the children, when you're drinking this, you're drinking this. It has quite the impact on them. They're shocked. So these foods, even a cinnamon bun, 12 teaspoons of sugar. But even things that we don't think of as being so concentrated in sugar, like an energy bar may have 5 teaspoons, a quarter cup of barbecue sauce, 4 teaspoons of sugar. So these numbers can get to that 6 teaspoon limit very, very quickly. And if we look at the sources of added sugar in the U.S. diet, 47% from liquid beverages. It's shocking. What about the sugar in fruit? Well, whole fruits are consistently protective to health. Why? Because they're rich in fiber and antioxidants and phytochemicals and vitamins and minerals, especially potassium and vitamin C and folate. So all of the studies looking at diabetes risk and fruit intake tend to be favorable for fruit intake rather than the other way around. But the body is well equipped to process the amount of fructose naturally present in fruits. But when we add concentrated fructose to beverages, the liver's capacity to handle fructose very quickly becomes overwhelmed, and that drives lipotoxicity. So daily average fructose intakes average about 37% of total sugars and 9% of daily calories. That's just shocking to me. So carbohydrate common sense, we want our carbohydrates from whole plant foods. We want to avoid added sugars, especially in beverages, and minimize all refined carbohydrates, both starches and sugars.